Everything just shattered. And not quietly, not behind palace doors, but out in the open where every whisper is turning into a roar. Because what Prince Harry and Meghan Markle tried so desperately to protect is now the very thing pulling them into the storm. And the more they stay silent, the louder the world becomes, asking questions that feel too bold, too personal, too dangerous to ignore. And yet here we are, watching it all unfold like a carefully hidden truth finally slipping through the cracks.
All Harry and Meghan need to do is prove to us that she popped those babies out. And that's all they need to do. And if they don't, it is unfair on the children. It's also unfair on the royal family.
People think her kids are fake. They think they're AI.
The whole description she does of the Portland hospital, the birth, that was completely fabricated. We all know.
What was once locked away, guarded with precision, wrapped in privacy and control, is now spiraling into something uncontrollable, something unpredictable, something that feels like it was never meant to be exposed this way. And at the center of it all, two children, two names that were supposed to stay protected from the chaos, Archie and Lilibet, now suddenly pulled into a narrative that is growing darker, louder, and far more intense than anyone imagined. And then comes the name that lit the match, Tom Bower, a man whose words don't just land, they echo. And this time, they didn't just echo, they exploded. Because now people aren't just watching, they're analyzing, they're connecting, they're digging. Every detail, every timeline, every carefully curated moment is being pulled apart like pieces of a puzzle that suddenly doesn't quite fit anymore. And here's where it gets uncomfortable, because the questions aren't slowing down, they're multiplying.
This scandal comes as no surprise. Speculation about the children has been simmering for years.
If she hasn't had the children herself, or Harry hadn't been involved, then they can't be in the royal line. They have to have royal blood, those little ones. Without that, there's no chance of them becoming a member of the royal family.
This case about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bum. The fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie.
So she wasn't even pregnant. So it's very weird. And Harry, it was said to Harry, not to her. I mean, she just...
This isn't just curiosity anymore. This is obsession, a shift, a turning point. Because what used to sit quietly in the background is now front and center, dominating conversations, flooding timelines, and igniting debates that feel impossible to shut down. And the more people look, the more they think they see patterns. Patterns that were once invisible, now suddenly impossible to ignore. And then, that question, the one that refuses to disappear, the one that keeps resurfacing no matter how uncomfortable it feels.
Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain.
They need to prove that those children, Meghan and Harry, are not entitled to privacy in this matter. And their privacy is trumped by our right to know that no bastard is going to sit on the throne of this country.
Like, why lie? It was just so truly bizarre.
Meghan is using everything for publicity and not really truly there. We know how she treats her family.
Who are Archie and Lilibet, really? It's the kind of question that crosses a line, the kind that shouldn't even be asked out loud. And yet, it is, again and again, louder each time. Because in a world where royal lineage isn't just personal, it's institutional, it's symbolic, it's everything. Questions like this don't just stay small. They expand, they grow, they become something bigger than anyone can control. And right in the middle of this storm stands Prince Harry, a man who once seemed unshakable, now appearing different. Observers are noticing it, the subtle shifts, the tension, the restless energy that doesn't quite match the calm image he once projected. It's like watching someone trying to hold everything together while the ground beneath them slowly gives way.
This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out.
Living a life that she's winning and she's doing all these great things, but the reality is not that.
Absolutely. What we really are seeing is that both of them, having posed as the victim for so long, are really the aggressor.
Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is marking her daughter Lilibet's 4th birthday by sharing some personal photographs. A rare sighting of a little girl seen in this picture with her father, Prince Harry. boy, and now her mom. The child's face is partially covered as the royal couple is known to fiercely guard the privacy of their 2 children. On Instagram, Meghan wrote, "Happy birthday to our beautiful girl. 4 years ago today, she came into our lives, and the day is brighter and better because of..."
And then there's Meghan Markle, calm, controlled, strategic. While one side looks shaken, the other looks calculated, measured, almost surgical in its response. No emotional outbursts, no public reactions, just quiet moves behind the scenes, legal steps, containment, control. And that contrast, it's not calming the situation, it's intensifying it. Because when 2 people facing the same storm react so differently, people start asking why. But here's the twist. The more this is pushed down, the more it rises. Stronger, louder, more persistent. It's like trying to bury something that refuses to stay buried. Now people are going back, revisiting old footage, old photos, old timelines with a completely different lens. What once looked polished now looks too polished, too perfect. And perfection in a story like this doesn't calm suspicion, it fuels it. Because people don't trust perfection. They question it. And suddenly, everything feels like a clue. Every silence feels intentional. Every missing moment feels significant. And the narrative that once felt solid, it's starting to crack. Then comes another layer, one that hits even harder, the silence. Not just from Harry and Meghan, but from the palace itself. No statements, no clarifications, just nothing. And in a situation like this, silence doesn't disappear into the background. It becomes the loudest sound in the room. And as this storm grows, comparisons start to emerge. Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, their children, their visible presence, their undeniable connection to the royal family. Photos, appearances, moments that feel natural, consistent, undeniable. But on the other side, absence, noticeable, repeated, unavoidable. And that absence, it's no longer just being noticed, it's being questioned, interpreted, debated. Because in a system built on visibility, tradition, and continuity, what's missing can sometimes speak louder than what's present. And now the story is shifting again. Because this isn't just about curiosity anymore, it's about perception, about control, about who gets to define the narrative and who's losing their grip on it. And right now, it feels like that control is slipping. And just when it feels like this storm has reached its peak, it twists again. Because silence, the very thing meant to calm everything down, is now acting like fuel, feeding every theory, every suspicion, every uncomfortable question that refuses to fade away. And the longer Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stay quiet, the louder the world becomes, as if the absence of answers is being interpreted as something far more meaningful than words ever could be. Because here's the reality no one can ignore anymore. The gap between their children and the rest of the royal family isn't just noticeable, it's glaring. And people aren't just asking why, they're demanding to know what it means. On one side, you have the structured, visible, almost ceremonial presence of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, with their children, regularly seen alongside King Charles III and Camilla, reinforcing a sense of continuity, stability, and tradition. But on the other side, there's a void. No shared moments, no visible connection, no organic family interactions that the public has come to expect from a royal narrative, and that absence is no longer being brushed aside as coincidence, it's being dissected like evidence. And then the conversation takes an even deeper, more uncomfortable turn, because what started as speculation begins to connect itself to something much bigger. Lineage, legitimacy, structure, the very foundation of what the monarchy represents, and suddenly this isn't just about one couple or their choices, it's about how the entire institution is perceived. Because when even the smallest detail feels unclear in something built on centuries of tradition, the ripple effect can be massive. And right at the center of this intensifying storm stands Tom Bower again. His claims continuing to echo, not because everyone believes them, but because they refuse to be ignored. And in a media landscape where repetition creates reality, the more his words circulate, the more they embed themselves into the conversation, turning possibility into perceived probability. But here's where it becomes almost impossible to look away, because the pressure isn't just external anymore, it's internal, it's personal, and according to reports, it's beginning to show. The environment around Harry is being described as tense, heavy, heavy, almost suffocating, with every headline, every comment, every video analysis being consumed, absorbed, and internalized in a way that doesn't just affect public image, it affects identity. The man who once positioned himself as a voice of clarity around mental health now appears caught in a storm that mirrors the very struggles he once spoke about overcoming. And that contrast, it's not subtle, it's sharp, it's uncomfortable, it's impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Meghan's approach continues to stand in stark contrast. Controlled, calculated, focused on legal boundaries and strategic containment, moving quietly but deliberately, as if every step is being measured for impact, but even that control is being questioned. Because instead of shutting the conversation down, it seems to be keeping it alive, almost as if every attempt to contain the narrative is unintentionally amplifying it. And then there's the palace. Silent, watching, waiting, no statements, no clarifications, not even the subtle gestures that usually signal alignment or support. It's a silence that feels intentional, almost strategic, as if every word not spoken is part of a larger calculation, and that absence is being interpreted in ways that only deepen the mystery. Is it distance? Is it caution? Or is it something else entirely? Because in a situation like this, where perception is everything, silence doesn't remain neutral, it becomes a message in itself. And now a new theory begins to take shape, one that shifts the entire perspective. What if this distance, this separation, this absence of visible connection wasn't rejection at all, but protection? What if the decision to keep Archie and Lilibet away from the center of royal life wasn't about exclusion, but about shielding them from something that was always expected to surface? It's a theory that changes everything, because if there was ever an awareness, even a quiet one, that questions could arise, then every decision starts to look less like coincidence and more like strategy. And that's where the tension reaches a completely different level, because now the conversation isn't just about what's being said, it's about what might have been known, what might have been anticipated, and why certain steps were taken long before any of this became public. And suddenly, the story doesn't feel reactive anymore. It feels preemptive. But the longer this goes on, the clearer one thing becomes: this isn't fading, it's growing. What started as whispers has turned into a full-scale narrative, spreading across platforms, pulling in voices from every direction, each one adding another layer, another interpretation, another possibility. Photos are being reanalyzed, timelines are being questioned, interviews are being replayed with a completely different lens. And in the middle of all of it, one question continues to dominate, refusing to be silenced. Why not address it? Because in a world where clarity can end speculation, silence does the opposite. It invites it, it nurtures it, it allows it to expand beyond control, and right now that expansion feels unstoppable. Every day without a direct response adds weight to the narrative, making it more complex, more intense, more difficult to reverse, and what's beginning to settle in is a realization that some of this may not be easily undone, because this isn't just about headlines anymore. It's about perception, about legacy, about how a story is remembered once the dust settles, and whether that dust ever truly settles at all. And perhaps the most unsettling part of all of this is how quickly everything has shifted, how a narrative built so carefully over years can begin to unravel, not through confirmation, but through uncertainty, through unanswered questions that linger just long enough to reshape the entire conversation. And now, the story that was once about independence, about a new chapter, about stepping away, is being rewritten in real time under a spotlight that refuses to dim. And as this continues to unfold, one thing feels certain: this moment matters more than any before it, because the choice ahead is no longer simple. Speak and risk fueling the fire. Stay silent and watch it grow. Either way, the outcome won't be small, because now this isn't just a story people are watching, it's a story people are deciding. And the most dangerous part? The ending hasn't been written yet.